This is a 2005 Pontiac GTO. In fact, it's my 2005 Pontiac GTO. Actually, was, because I sold it. The car was actually much bigger in real life. This drawing is not to scale. And it's worth mentioning that I think I'm gonna have a clickbaity title on this. The biggest mistake of my life was selling this car. It honestly wasn't. In many ways, buying this car was a large mistake, and then you take into account the fact that I sold it at a terrible loss. That's also a regret of mine. I really have a never-ending stream of regrets in my life, particularly surrounding this car. But I figured I'd go back retrospectively to kind of talk about this car and some of its quirks and features. I obviously don't have the car anymore, but I took a lot of pictures of it before I sold it on Bring a Trailer. So we'll just kind of go through those and I'll kind of point some things out. So starting out, the front end of this car is probably my favorite feature. I say the headlights on this car they're so standard, but I think they're so perfect. They kind of are angled and kind of look like a hawk, not too much, but I think they look pretty cool. Probably first favorite feature on this car is the grille. This is really the only GTO thing on this car. This is a Holden, this is Australian. Americans decided, yeah, let's do the GTO thing again. That'll be funny. And they just were like, we don't want to build a new car. We're just gonna put some emblems on it and make it a GTO by doing that. That's really all they did, but I think this grille looks so sweet. This is also, I don't want to brag or anything, but this is actually the Sport Appearance Package grille. Now, it had one other Sport Appearance Package trim option on it, but primarily the grille. On most of these cars, the grille is like this big fat thing that goes along the side of the bumper, and it kind of just pokes out. These go in, and I think it kind of is emblematic of that kind of original GTO 2 grille logo in the middle look. The Pontiac emblem in the center, you can kind of still see it. I always thought these were red. They're kind of like an orangish. Down here, you can see the fog lights. I swear, I always thought these looked cool. It wasn't until the day before, pretty much before I sold this car, that I figured out actually how to turn on the headlights. It turns out you pull up on the headlight switch and it turns the fog lights on. I never knew that. I wish I did because it looks kind of cool with them on. My second favorite part of this car is probably the hood, because this is, I think, a classic GTO styling that they had, the Ram Air dual hood vents. And these actually, kind of work. I don't know how well they work, but they really look cool. They have these longer humps, much longer than a 60s GTO would have had. But I think it looks really great on the hood. I still like 04 GTOs, but most people do the 05 to 06 hood on those cars just to make it look a little cooler. Now let's talk about the stance of this car. This car always had a pretty good stance. It has 18-inch wheels, which is, again, I don't want to brag, but kind of a rare option. People always wanted me to switch to some aftermarket wheel. I really like these 5 spokes. I think they're really solid. Most of these cars came with 17-inch wheels, but I think the 18-inch wheels really fills out the wheel wells kind of. Now this was stock suspension, stock ride height. It was pretty good. I think it could have been a little bit lower. Over curbs, the exhaust kind of scraped a little bit, but it wasn't terrible enough that I probably could have lowered it, made it look a lot better. Now this car was long. This car was I think longer than a mid-size Audi SUV, and it's only a coupe. That means that there was plenty of room in the back seats. It's a 4-seat car, which is one of the main things that attracted me to this car. I was originally going to get a Corvette, and I don't really need 4 seats because I don't have any friends, but I think it was just, I need a little bit more room, a little bit more practicality, if you can call this car practical. But that meant that from bumper to bumper, this car was very long. Now let's talk about the butt of this car. These taillights, I always thought were fine. They're not super exciting, but I don't think taillights need to be exciting. The second thing I want to mention about this admittedly awkward rear end is the spoiler. Usually people take the spoilers off the cars. But usually people don't even have this spoiler in particular because this is the Sport Appearance Package spoiler. It has 3 pillars. It's much taller than most other spoilers, and it just kind of looks like a tabletop, and it's not that attractive. I always thought it was cool because it was rare, but honestly, if I had this car for longer, I might have taken it off. As awkward as the rear end is, I think one of the coolest parts of it is the dual exhaust. It has this like GTO exhaust lower bumper cover that looks pretty solid, and it has these 2 dual exhausts. These are actually MagnaFlow. These aren't the stock exhaust tips, but I thought they just looked really mean. As I mentioned, this is just a Holden with GTO badges, but the badges are pretty cool. They harken back to the, the original GTO styling. Now here's a close-up of the wheel. It's a 5-spoke, which is the classic look. It's a big 18-inch wheel. I think the 17-inch wheels, they look good, but they're a little bit too small. And I think the 5-spoke 18-inch just looks really solid. It's nothing crazy. It's just a solid wheel. Now the brakes on this car were pretty good. I didn't go crazy. I think these are Willwood disc brakes. They are drilled and slotted because I think that was like the only option for them. I don't really think it makes much of a difference, but it always stopped pretty good. Here's a close-up of the spoiler. From this angle, it looks pretty good because this is honestly a really nice picture. But it's a little bit awkward from other angles how tall and big it is. As I mentioned before, this thing has MagnaFlow exhaust on it. It's just a catback, but it's their competition, like not their street style, but their like competition. So it's supposed to be a little bit louder. And this was like kind of, I would not have wanted to get like the lower performance one because this thing wasn't loud enough. I know LSs are very quiet when they're not under load, but it did have a nice balance between, it didn't have too much drone sound when you're in the cabin, but it had a nice growl to it. Here's a close-up I decided to take of the backup camera. This is obviously not stock to this car, but we installed it just because, again, I said this car is so freaking long that backing up was a bit of a pain. It was always doable and really easy, but it was just a little bit safer to have a backup camera. Now, people complain about GM interior quality all the time, but I think people will admit this is a pretty nice interior. First of all, it was clean, and these gauges are very simple. They look a little bit cheap with the kind of digital dash thing, but I think they look really sexy. When you turn the lights on and you have the backlight on it, I think they look really good. 2 circles, tach, speed, 2 outer circles, temperature, gas. Honestly, probably not enough information for like a sports car as it is, but you don't really need much more than this, and it's super solid. Now this steering wheel, I will admit, is very cheap. It's just kind of big and fat. I think it looks okay, but it looks so faded that it just kind of looks bad. This thing had almost 120,000 miles on it when I sold it. I think it had about 111 when I bought it. So I put about 9, 8, 10,000 miles on this car since when I got it. And I only had it for about a year and a half. So that's pretty good bang for my buck. I never upgraded the radio in this thing. I probably should have because playing music on this thing, I had to get one of those Bluetooth connectors that connects to a radio signal and then you connect to that through Bluetooth, and it worked like half of the time. I thought this Blaupunkt 6-disc changer CD thing was pretty cool, but I think I lost a couple CDs in there and it just ate them. Now in the center of the dash, you have the AC controls, which I don't think look terrible. They're not GM's worst AC switches, but they look a little bit cheap, I will admit. But I like that it's simple. I don't like having to push multiple buttons to figure out what temperature it is in the car, and I rarely ever use this. Now here's the creme of the crop, as you will, if the cream of the cream, the 6-speed T56 manual transmission, a very coveted transmission. Now, since this is a picture of the interior, I will point out that this is a new shift boot and new shifter. The original one kind of had like a hole in it because there was like no heat cover under this. So I think this one's probably gonna get a hole in it because it's just transmission like right under here. Now this thing is a 6-speed and it probably doesn't need 6 speeds. This thing, the way it was geared, you could go like 100 miles an hour in first gear. This thing was geared really ridiculously. You were idling at like 500 RPM, going like 600 miles an hour in sixth gear. It was stupid. 5 and 6 are basically double overdrive in this car, but it was always nice to have them because cruising on the highway, this thing got really good gas mileage for what it is. The one thing I will complain about this car is it has this GM early 2000s skip shift 1 to 4 asshole shift pattern where if you're under a certain amount of RPM in first gear, it will lock you out of second gear. So you can't just, and I'm shifting into second. No, it says you're shifting into fourth gear. You can't even, like, it feels like you're grinding the gears to shift it into second, and you can't even get it into second. So you have to go all the way over the fourth gear. Now, number one, this is really easy to take out. You just need like a tune or something to take it out. I never bothered to do that because I actually kind of got used to it. You either just go first, neutral, and then into second, or you go first to fourth, or you go first to third, and it's a little bit easier. Like, I would use this sometimes. I would just go like first to fourth and then not shift again. Now, the parking brake, just like in a Corvette, is on the passenger side of this car, which I always thought it was because it was Australian, but like I said, it's in the Corvette too. So I think they just kind of do this. Now, here's the other end of the backup camera. We didn't install like a double din screen or anything. This is a new rear view mirror that has the backup camera built in. It kind of got a little bit confusing when you're like looking in the rear view mirror to see what's actually behind you, and then you see the camera and you're like looking back and forth, but you get used to it. Now, here are the back seats. These seats were honestly really comfortable. I never rode in the back seat, but I got in back here a couple times to clean stuff out, and there's a lot of freaking room back there. I mean, there's a ridiculous amount of room back there, and they have these like weird bucket seats. It would have been nice to have 3 seats in the back, like a bench seat in the back, but these are like bucket seats for the rear seats. Now here's what you all came here for. This is the LS2. Now, a Corvette has an LS2. A Corvette has a T56. That's why I wanted one to begin with. I was thinking Corvette with an LS3 because it's a Corvette with an LS3. It's a little bit faster, but honestly, I would have settled for an LS1. I mean, an LS2, 400 horsepower, that's way too much for anyone. I don't care what you say, that's way too much. In this car, you know, aluminum, it's super light, it's really reliable. I did have trouble with overheating when I cracked the radiator. You replace the radiator, you're fine, man. 120,000 miles on this engine. Never really had a problem with the motor. It looks really good. These covers, I resprayed them before I sold it. It looks really solid. A lot of these cars don't even have the covers on it anymore. Now here's a close-up of the pedals. I always thought these pedals looked a little like Japanese sports car-y, but these were always super solid pedals. They're kind of weirdly spaced apart. They're like evenly spaced apart. The clutch is the same distance away from the brake as the brake is away from the gas pedal, which makes it kind of awkward to like heel toe downshift in this thing, but you get used to it and you just kind of put your foot at an angle. Like, I'm used to driving a Miata where you can put like your entire foot over the brake and you still have like 3 toes to reach over to the gas pedal. The trunk was reasonably sized. I mean, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I moved college and back with all the stuff in the trunk and it was pretty good. I don't know why I'm mentioning this, but I feel the need to mention that I got new front floor mats for this car, but didn't put them in just so the new owner could put them in if he wants. Like, I think buying new floor mats looks really good, but using new floor mats is kind of silly because they're just going to get ruined again. Now, these seats might be the most comfortable seats I've ever sat in a car. These were a little worn in, so it was kind of awkward and you're back. Like, no seat you can sit in on a 6-hour drive and be comfortable the whole time. But these are like Audi quality seats. These are really comfortable. The leather isn't fantastic. Honestly, if this was like, there's Alcantara on the door panels for some reason. If these were Alcantara seats, that would be incredible. But the way they support your back is pretty nice. So that's my 2005 previously owned by me GTO. You know, this car is Australian, which is why I bought it, because it's unique. It's also kind of why it was a pain in the ass, because Australian people are just drunk, bumbling One thing I'll mention that made this car really annoying. Again, as I said, I wanted a Corvette, I wanted 4 seats, and I also wanted something unique. The GTO fit all those categories. Awesome drivetrain, 4 seats, pretty unique. For some reason, in between a Vegemite sandwich, they decided to make everything backwards in this car. So in the relay box, what we did is we wanted to put a kill switch in this car. So the relay would go in the relay box, work as a normal relay, but you would need a fob to activate it to start the car. However, the kill switch relay we purchased was American, and the relay box is Australian. Where the prongs on the American relay are, the female side is flipped. So what we had to do is reach under the relay box, take out the female's flip them so they would fit. So I had to tell the next owner, if you need a relay that actually works in this car that isn't a kill switch, you have to buy an Australian relay only. And if you buy an American one, you have to reach back under the relay box and take out the female sides and flip them. I realized that's a small complaint. This was a very solid car. It's 90% American, solid built, speed, fast, America, and it worked really good. And I do regret selling this car sometimes. I also don't regret selling this car sometimes. Having this car was a lot of fun, but it was honestly such a nice example GTO. I always felt bad beating on this thing. I mean, I know it's an LS, the drivetrain's really solid, but I just always felt like it's this pristine piece of history. And don't get me wrong, I still treated it like a car. I drove it over like 10,000 miles, but I was always a little bit nervous about this thing. So having it off my plate is honestly a big relief.